So a wrestling match that sucks, but I love anyway. I mean, there's a lot I could choose from. Some of them just suck, like Viagra on a pole. But in that same time frame, Vince Russo decided he'd done too many pole matches. So rather than not do a pole match, he was like, well, what's like a pole? A forklift. So one day, Kanyon decided, how am I going to get to the WCW title? How am I going to be successful? How am I going to get a few more zeros on that paycheck that I get month to month? I'm going to feud with Buff Bagwell, and I'm going to kidnap his mother. And no one's going to ring the police, no one's going to ring the authorities, because I bet that Buff Bagwell will decide, well, why don't we take my mother, Judith Bagwell, and put her on a forklift? And the winner is whoever can save her from the forklift, which brings up so many questions, because Buff did win. What would happen if Kanyon won? Does he get ownership of the mother? Because that's definitely not allowed. That's definitely illegal. And would definitely go on the crime counter. Now, actually, Kanyon was a talent man. He was ahead of the game. Buff Bagwell was never for me, but obviously he did find a place in WCW. I wouldn't say the match is terrible. It's just kind of there. But the stipulation is so ridiculous and it's so dumb. And it will scare away people that don't watch wrestling quicker than anything else you can show them, mostly. It cracks me up. I have tears in my eyes. That new Blood Rising 2000 pay-per-view, I think, is the worst pay-per-view of all time. But now that WCW is dead, which is very sad, but it's like almost 3 decades gone, to the point some new fans don't even know what World Championship Wrestling is, you can watch it and just laugh. Because you're like, how is this happening? As we get no DQ matches ending in DQs. But it's terrible. It's awful. It's probably the worst stipulation of all time. But it has brought me a lot of joy over the last, 25 years. It was the year 2000. So I can't get mad at it too much, especially because, yes, when you go watch the Mike Awesome, who the hell was it, Billy Kidman, Viagra on a pole match, that's just awful. Embarrassing. And makes you want to hide away. So I'm going to give it up to Judy Bagwell on a pole. Probably the reverse battle royal in TNA as well. But I don't like to say too many bad words about the reverse battle royal, because I still think there's a way to do it. TNA just didn't book it very well. So I hope I know some people have done it again, but I hope someone actually makes that into a serious concept. But there'll be some people watching this that have no idea that a mother was suspended up in the air on a forklift. So I just think we always have to keep the memory alive, right? That's a constant saying, that if we don't talk about these things, we'll forget. I don't think we should ever forget this for 2 reasons. 1, because it's hilarious. And 2, even though I'm praising it right now, it can never happen again. It can never happen again. It makes it embarrassing to be a wrestling fan, man. And trust me, we've got enough of that.
What wrestling match sucks, but you'll love it anyway?
The only match in this video where the 4 participants have a combined age of 206 years old. It's The Undertaker and Kane versus DX Baby from Saudi Arabia 2018? Yeah. Absolute horror show of a match from start to finish. And this is probably a match that there's 2 camps, I think. Well, no, there's probably 3. There's probably someone who earnestly thinks this is good, in which case, what are we doing here? But the main parties with regards to this match are people who earnestly love The Undertaker, Kane, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H, and watched this and were really disappointed that the childhood heroes had let them down with this sloppy old man fart fest that had sullied their legacies. And Shawn Michaels came out of retirement for this, and he's the, just apart from the losing his smile thing, he was the one guy who never really came back. And now he's done this and he's ruined it all for the money. I'm so annoyed. And then there's the rest of us, and we just watch this and piss ourselves laughing. Look, Kane's wig fell off in this match. The wig attached to his mask just went flying completely off his face. The cameras couldn't cut away from it in time. Triple H horrifically injured himself somehow. I don't know, I barely saw him move the whole match. The Undertaker entered one, old, obviously, lots of wear and tear, so, very late in his career, enters one of the sloppiest, broken action figurist movement of his career. It's a complete calamity of a match, as a lot of these veterans in Saudi Arabia matches were. I think the exception is probably Triple H, Randy Orton early on, which was pretty good. Was it Triple H, Randy Orton, or Triple H, John Cena? I don't know. The one where they just did some faces and the whole crowd went mental. That was good. But this one, the thing that sums it up is Shawn Michaels' face, beginning, middle, and end, when he comes out with a stupid little do-rag on, thinking that this is going to stay on his bald-ass head the majority of the match. It, of course, falls off, immediately. That shot of him and Triple H in the corner, where Triple H is consoling him, and Shawn Michaels is the literal definition of smiling through the pain. And then the post-match interview, where he's just derping his way through, going, think of the 5 $5 million, John. Think of the $5 million. This is, it's not quite Heroes of Wrestling tier, right? There's some real, like, actually depressing horror shows on that thing of people who definitely should not have been medically cleared to compete. But I'm really glad that these four were medically cleared to compete because... and again, the build up to this whole thing was that the legendary tag team, the Brothers of Destruction, they'd had like 9 matches, and one of them was against Chronic. And that's another candidate for this list, by the way. But yeah, it's an all-time catastrophe, and I absolutely love it. I watch it all the time.
I have spoke about this many times, and I will speak about it forevermore because I love it so much. But the Kennel from Hell. It is the dumbest thing that has ever been created in wrestling, and therefore the most wonderful thing that has ever been created in wrestling. The story leading up to it was absolutely ludicrous. He ate his dog. And then you're like, what's worse than a Hell in a Cell? What about a Hell in a Cell with a cage inside? It's like, oh no, that's not enough. What if we put dogs outside? And then they just hump each other and shit all over the place. Like... What were you thinking was going to happen? How are you sat backstage going, this is a great idea, the dogs are going to be growling at them and they'll have to run away, and it's like, no, they're just dogs. They're going to do whatever it is they're going to do, and apparently it's humping shit. Yeah. And it, like, you must have seen this happening, and yet you did it anyway. I genuinely think it's just Vince McMahon having a funny day backstage thinking like, you know what will make them look fucking stupid? A bunch of dogs in a Hell in a Cell, assholes. But I honestly think at the same time it's the match I've gone back and watched the most because it's just joyful. It's stupid. There is no merit in terms of quality of wrestling with it whatsoever, but it makes me smile and it makes me laugh, and I'm really glad it exists.
You're getting higher and higher. You're going to lose your center of gravity.
Oh. You know the Science and Personal things for the event?
Do I have to go back up?
No, it's fine.
Michael Sidgwick, what wrestling match sucks but you love anyway?
I've got 2. The first one's very quick. If you haven't seen Diamond Dallas Page versus The Machine from WCW Thunder, I urge you all right now to check it out. Little is known about The Machine, power plant graduate, green is aloe vera, right? There's a spot in this match, and it only goes like 90 seconds or whatever, where The Machine is in one corner of the ring, right? And they do the spot where they nudge the ropes, and that suddenly makes them, you know, like... crotch themselves on the rope, right? DDP does this on the other side of the ring, so that it makes no sense that this would cause the Machine to, like, move his legs and just fall off, you know? The Machine takes this as an instruction to jump off the top turnbuckle about 3 feet into the air, put his balls on the top rope, and go... It's the funniest spot I've ever seen. In terms of a feature-length match that's just so bad it's good, I have a wonderful time with it every single time. It's the uncensored 1996 Doomsday Cage, where it's the mega powers of Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, not known by that, but, you know, against the Alliance to End Hulkamania. You know how everyone takes the piss out of the Zandig promo? There was 5 of them. Yeah. Jesus!
What are you, blind?
What are you, blind? There was 8 of them. Jesus! Hulk Hogan, with his hubris, decided, because it was WCW, it was 95, the first Flair match had drawn business, but realistically there was a split in that crowd. He was in Horseman country. He was weird. Like he attracted enough eyeballs to make it viable, but he wasn't really popular, sentimental. So he surmised the situation. And he was like, yeah, this Hulkamania thing, brother, might not be working too much anymore. What's the answer? 4 times more Hulkamania. It'll be 2 versus 8. It's like a double or triple decker cage. And there's 8. And it's basically pitched as a side-scrolling 2D beat-em-up where they have to go from the top of the cage, beat up some guys. That's relevant. Go, drop down, beat up some more guys, drop down, beat the remaining guys. Usually, in a side-scrolling beat-em-up, Streets of Rage, or in this case, the more apt comparison is Shinobi, you beat some, like, 2-kill knackers, and then you proceed across the screen. Beat up some people, 2 punches, 2 hits, they're dead. Ric Flair is your jabroni guy at the start of the match, and the final boss, if you like, there's 2 of them. Neither of them are full-time professional wrestlers. One of them's an actor. One of them was a glorified extra who just had the most enormous arms in the world, right? And bringing to an end this spiel, and indeed the video game analogy, in this 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up of a match, the ultimate display of hubris of all time, Arn Anderson in the Shinobi match is dressed like a ninja. He's wearing like a ninja outfit. I don't understand what's going on. I love the all right, realistically, the actual experience gets a bit boring. It's the essence and the concept of the match I'm just in love with. Like, probably more Hulkamania, if anything. They don't know what they're missing out on. Brother.
Kids these days, man.
So look, I need to explain straight away why this match is one that I loved, past tense. Probably don't love as much now, but I get why I loved it as a kid, even though I know now that it sucks. So WrestleMania 20 is like the first big event that I watched. Like, a lot of people know this if they've watched these kind of videos before. I've talked about it a lot, but it is like the first big thing I watched, WWE wrestling in general. And a big match on that card that got my attention straight away was Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, because it was just two dinosaurs banging into each other. I loved it. I was in year 4, I think, so I was like 8, 9. It was made for me, that match. It was just big monsters banging into each other, test of strength, Stone Cold being a badass, stunning everyone. I thought it was great. I wasn't really listening all that much to the crowd because I think it was on like a fuzzy video at the time, so I wasn't really that engaged. I just thought, oh, it's a really hot crowd and they're just really angry at someone. I don't know. I wasn't aware of the backstage stuff that was going on. I didn't know it was two people who didn't want to be there. Like, that was what the match was. Like, I didn't understand that. I just thought, oh, they're just testing each other out with their strength and then hitting each other with power moves. Oh, this is great. This is wrestling. I'm so excited. I'm so engaged. But since I have now realized that this match is terrible, it's the most basic big meaty men slapping meat match out there, really. It's, like I've said, it's two people who don't want to be in that ring, don't want to be in Madison Square Garden that night, and just want to get out of there as quick as they can. And it's a real nothing match, looking back on it. It's more famous for the crowd reaction and Stone Cold stunning them out of the building, like I said. Like, they had better matches years down the line. It's not one that I return to all that often now, just for a lot of obvious reasons. Like, it's something that I'm not comfortable watching anymore. I'm just like, ugh. But as a kid, I get it. I get why I loved it. And I kind of love the idea of young Gareth watching it, being like, God, this is so, like, mad, just big dinosaurs banging into each other and just being so naive and innocent and not getting what was actually happening. He didn't know. He didn't understand. So that's why he loved it, even though it was terrible. I didn't know what artistry was back then. I just wanted to see a big bald man and a big man with big traps hitting each other really hard. And that's what I got. I was a happy chappy.
The match that sucks but I love anyway is, I think, objectively one of the worst wrestling matches ever. Like, unanimously amongst... But there's no one I know amongst the wrestling fandom that is like, no, actually, when you break it down, you're not really getting it. Here's why it's really good. Because it's Jenna Marasa versus Queen Charmeal from TNA. It is... Like, it's just such a guilty pleasure match. It's terrible. There's no one who's ever going to... I don't know what the star rating that Dave gave it, but it was too good, whatever he gave them, because it was absolutely atrocious. I have to give a huge shout out to Brian and Vinny, Brian Alvarez, because they're the reason... and Botchamania, actually. They're the reason I know about this match, because obviously I wasn't watching... Was it Victory Road 2009? Come on. But on Botchamania and through their podcast channels and stuff, I found out about this match and their subsequent rants about it. I have to see this now, and it's the perfect bad match, from the gear to the entrances to, the wrestling part of it. It's atrocious. There's the slaps, as you just did for me there. The slaps that we get from Jenna Marasa, who, I get it. She's not celebrity wrestling has changed quite a bit, let's say, since 2009, considering what we've got in 2025. But it's, the work there, the bit where she gets tripped and acts like she's dead, let's be perfectly honest. There's a bit, because there's some interference, if I remember rightly, and Awesome Kong's meant to catch someone. Doesn't care. Who could care during this match, to the finish, which I think, aside from maybe Alexa Bliss, Randy Orton, is the only time I've ever seen someone pin someone with their vagina. If you haven't seen it, are you really a wrestling fan? You have to go and watch it. It is dreadful, but it's one I watch at least once a year just to remind myself what this business is all about.
Right, for this one, I'm not necessarily choosing this match for the match itself, but more for what the match represents, if that kind of makes sense. You'll see where I'm going, hopefully. I'm going to go bold, and I'm pulling out Tatanka versus Damian Demento from the 1st of February 1993, which I believe was the 4th ever episode of WWF Raw, as it was back then. This was as formulaic as formulaic goes. 4 minutes of a mid-card babyface against a lower-card heel. Barely any bumps, and some pretty awful commentary from Macho Man Vince McMahon and a fella called Rob Bartlett. Now, I love me some Macho Man, but Savage as a commentator, it wasn't great. It never really worked. Vince was actually great at some aspects of that. I mean, then there is, though, of course, those water maneuver style comments that would get a little thin. And Rob Bartlett, he was a comedian and broadcaster with zero background in wrestling and was horrendous at commentary. Lasted barely 3 months before getting the boot. The point being here, bad commentary, lackluster action, no massive particular star power. Though, yeah, young me, I mean, old me even, always loved a bit of Tatanka. He was in that same era as, say, Kona Crush for me. You know, you have your guys when you're younger. Not necessarily the top stars, but you have your guys as a kid. And for me, Tatanka and Crush were two of my guys. But the match is dull, plodding. Damian Demento talks to the sky, rambling on, much like I'm doing here. Tatanka is a spirited babyface who has the people on his side, and who eventually picks up the win. But there's something so special about this, about the formula, about the period of time, not just in wrestling, but like for me, just that period in my life when you're, without trying to get all deep and meaningful, but where you're just able to enjoy what was in front of you, not overthink it, not overanalyze it. You never even heard of a star rating. Oh, what a time to be alive. This was just your basic hero versus villain story, told in less than 5 minutes, and you ate it all up. As did the crowd in attendance, to be fair. They cheered on Tatanka, they booed when Damian Demento got the upper hand, and they gave a very solid pop when Tatanka got the win. It's beautiful and brilliant in its basicness, no bells and whistles, just a couple of colourful characters telling an extremely vanilla story, a story seen so often on wrestling programming back at that time. But again, it's more what this match represents, the time it represents, the time when young me had well and truly been bitten by the wrestling bug. That's what it represents. And that's why, despite it being far from special, those 4 or 5 minutes of wrestling from 1993, they get all the love in the world from me.